LA Unified School District is expanding their after-school dinner program. So in the next 2 years, 150,000 kids will eat dinner after school. Hey, Slater Crusaders, my name is Mike Slater. This is a special edition of Here's What's Up. I just want to talk about this one topic because I have plenty to say. We're talking free breakfast, free second chance breakfast if parents can't get their kids to school before school starts, free lunch, and now free dinner. This is important. Yes, we are giving kids food, and that's good. But we also have to consider, what are we robbing them of at the same time? What are we stealing from them at the same time? Yes, they get food, but among other things, they're now robbed of attachment between child and their parents, right? Children appreciate when parents give them food. That teaches them to trust. Children now love and trust their parents because the parents gave the children what they need. And when we give away simple things like this, breakfast and lunch and dinner, it chips away at the attachment that children have with their parents. And now children are taught to trust the school, trust the government for the things that parents are supposed to be doing. It takes away from the intimacy between parents and children. Leads to the further erosion of the family. Please leave in the comment section, what else do you think feeding kids dinner at school takes away from children and the family? Because it's not just what I said there. There's plenty of other things that we're robbing our children of as well. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, but Slater, we need to feed children. We need to feed them, of course. But that begs the question, why are there 150,000 parents or sets of parents not feeding their kids? Think about that, 150,000 children. The Super Bowl is in Glendale, University of Arizona Stadium. That's 2.5, check this out, 2.5 of these worth of children every day at LA Unified who don't get fed dinner by their parents. That's outrageous. We need to address those problems. Because if you just feed a kid who otherwise wouldn't get fed at home, that doesn't get to the root of why they're not being fed. And I promise you, if they're not being fed dinner, there's a lot of other problems going on at home that need to be addressed. Just feeding kids covers up the root issue. Personally, I think Child Protective Services should be called if you're not feeding your kids for that. Now think about what we're talking about. We're talking about feeding your kids. This is the most basic aspect of parenting that parents aren't doing. I think Child Protective Services should be called. I think they should get parents in touch with charities and churches, because here's why. Charities and churches enhance the intimacy and love and community relationship. Charity and churches are all about building relationships as opposed to just feeding kids at school, which destroys relationships. Now, just so you know what the root of this is, Alexandra Kollontai, she was a Marxist writer in the 1910s and 20s. She was actually the highest ranking woman in the Soviet Union. She wrote a book in 1920 called The Worker. And she wrote this. She says, but even if housework disappears, there are still children to look after. But here too, the workers' state, the government, will come to replace the family. To replace the family. Society, meaning government, will gradually take upon itself all the tasks that before the revolution fell to the individual parents. And she goes on and says the communist society government will come to the aid of the parents. In Soviet Russia, the commissariats of public education and social welfare, and then she goes on to list the things that the government is already doing to take care of children. This is the most important line right here. All this goes to show that the responsibility for the child is passing from the family to the collective, passing from the family to the government. So that's crazy. That's just, 1920s old, outdated Soviet thinking. Nope. Our president said this just the day before the last election.
And sometimes someone, usually mom, leaves the workplace to stay home with the kids, which then leaves her earning a lower wage for the rest of her life as a result. And that's not a choice we want Americans to make. So let's make this happen. By the end of this decade, let's enroll 6 million children in high-quality preschool.
Think about that. Women spending time with the kids, women raising children on this hand, or working That shouldn't be a choice women should even have to make. You shouldn't even have to think about staying home and raising your kids. Instead, vote for Barack Obama, vote for Democrats, and we will pass high-quality daycare and preschool to take care of your children for you. This is classic, textbook Marxist ideology. Responsibility of raising children passing from the parent to the collective. I want to give you one last excerpt here from Alexandra Kollontai, again from 1920, her book called The Worker. The women who take up the struggle for the liberation of the working class must learn, again, who stick up for Marxism, must learn to understand that there's no more room for the old proprietary attitude, which says these are my children. I owe them all my maternal solicitude and affection, love and affection. Those are your children. They are no concern of mine, and I don't care if they go hungry and cold. I have no time for other children. No. The worker mother must learn not to differentiate between yours and mine. She must remember that there are only our children, the children of Russia's communist workers. Again, you think that's old communist thinking. Well, do you remember this MSNBC commercial?
We have never invested as much in public education as we should have because we've always had kind of a private notion of children. Your kid is yours and totally your responsibility. We haven't had a very collective notion of these are our children. So part of it is we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Once it's everybody's responsibility and not just the households, then we start making better investments.
With the government now feeding kids dinner, the responsibility of the parent, more than ever now, has passed from the family to the collective, to the government. Yes, of course, we want kids to be fed. Churches and charities, that's who should do it if parents are in a situation where they can't. Churches and charities, not schools, not the government. Because if we let this go on, and if we ignore this because, there's poor children who need food in their tummies, otherwise they're not going to be able to pay attention. If we ignore this and let this go on, the next generation will know no different than eating every meal in school. Imagine that. The dinner table will be a quaint old piece of furniture that doesn't make sense anymore. The government keeps trying to get in between the relationship of parent and children. Don't let them fight this. This can't possibly end well.